Thank you so much, everyone, for welcoming myself and Alan from Saving Innocence this morning. It's really, really incredible to see you all and to be a part of the Mastery Circle International this morning. As you've heard, I am Katie Joseph, and I work as the Director of Development for Saving Innocence. You'll hear a lot more about Saving Innocence in a few minutes, but I was sat here and the word that's been coming to mind for me for like the past 5 or 6 days over and over and over in so many different ways is gratitude. So it was really interesting to me that Michael shared exactly about that word about gratitude. And I feel incredibly grateful to Mary Grace. I know she's not here this morning, but she just has that way with her where she's just incredible, right? And such a connector and such an inspiration. And when I reached out to her, she was just all over like, oh, we would love to have you guys at Saving Innocence at Mastery Circle. So I feel very grateful to her for her support and her friendship and everything that she brings to me personally, but for allowing us this opportunity also. And as I've been thinking more and more about gratitude, I just wanted to share something really quickly. Just talk about real gratitude for a quick second. And I'm reading this because I found it. I'm not talking about the polite thanks we say without thinking. I'm talking about the soul deep, breath catching, heart pounding kind of gratitude that hits you when someone shows up for you, when a moment lands, when you realize this is love, this is community, this is grace. Real gratitude changes the energy in the room. It says, I see you. I appreciate you. I don't take this for granted. And here's the incredible part that we all know when we give it out loud with our whole hearts, it spreads, it multiplies, and it moves people. So if you're feeling it, I encourage you to say it, share it, live it, because gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a revolution. And I love that because it's just exactly how I feel. It really sums up gratitude. And as I said, you'll learn a little bit about Saving Innocence in a minute and meet the incredible Alan Smyth, who is the executive director. And I'll share a little more as I go on this morning also about why I feel so grateful to Alan, to Saving Innocence for the incredible opportunity that I have to partner with him and to work for such an incredible organization. First, so I just wanted to introduce you to somebody. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Can you see that? Yes, good. Perfect.
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. And I just wanted to share and to introduce you to Jasmine. You'll see her here in the middle, getting ready for prom, leaving for prom. And her twin brother, Jesse, they are now 25 years old, but here they were obviously a lot younger. And Jesse and Jasmine here, first day of kindergarten, kind of the family milestones that most people will have. Their first day at middle school and prom and their high school graduation. And as you could see, they look probably like a lot of teens that you all would know, or maybe your kids, grandkids, community members, neighbors, whomever. And Jasmine was here, like I was saying, 16, 17, 18, and lived in the LA area, San Fernando Valley, and was just seemed like any other teen. Here she's 18, she just turned 18. And even though she'd experienced some real challenges through life, when she was 13, she was diagnosed at the UCLA world-renowned teen mood disorder clinic with bipolar disorder type 1. And so, living with those kinds of mental health challenges was difficult, especially for a middle schooler and a high schooler. And she'd even overcome those challenges. She'd gone, obviously, being a teen with mental health challenges and the stigma, as we all know and we're all familiar with, carries a burden, carries stigma, carries a lot with it. And so she experienced bullying and all kinds of things and really had a lot of self-doubt and didn't know really how life would turn out for her. And then through the therapy and through the intervention of the mood disorder clinic, was able to really rise above the challenges and really start to define who she is as a person, who she was at 18 as a person, and looked forward to a full life ahead. And one of her biggest goals and aspirations was to be a makeup artist, and she was accepted into the International Makeup Institute, which was at the time in Hollywood. So life was really going well, and she just seemed to have everything in front of her. Um, and then one day, 2 weeks after she turned 18, sorry, just my mouth's still dry, sorry. She was outside Birmingham High School, which I don't know if many of you are familiar with this area in LA, but literally San Fernando Valley, Tarzana, Reseda area, high school that is pretty well known and has um, a huge group of kids go there, and just down the street, just in communities like most people live in. And she disappeared that day, literally 2 weeks after she turned 18, right outside of high school, disappeared. And that day changed her life forever. The choice that she made to go, regardless of what that means, changed her life forever. And for the next 746 days, her parents woke up not knowing if she was dead or alive, not knowing if this face that you're looking at, the last picture they had of her, if they would ever see her again, if they would ever hear her again. And that, as you can imagine, for any parent is more than you can imagine. It's horrific. It's unbelievable to wake up with that feeling every single day. And the reason that I know that is because Jasmine is my daughter. And so not only did her life change that day, our lives, me, my husband, our family, her twin brother Jesse, that you saw a few minutes ago, getting ready for his high school graduation, it changed forever. And what we learned is that Jasmine had been coerced by a guy who was 36 years old. So, as I mentioned, she just turned 18. So there was a huge difference in age. And what I've now learned from working with Saving Innocence is that this is an extremely common form of trafficking. Like, it's called a Romeo pimp because the person promises to give them the life that they always wanted, give them every single thing they could imagine, money and jewelry and love and et cetera, change their lives. And that's what that's what took her away that day. That person took her away that day. And it's something like I could never, ever, ever, ever imagine it would happen to us. And I know that sounds very I don't know, what the word is. A lot of people say, well, I never thought it could happen to us. But I really did not think it could happen to us. Like, we were a two-parent family. We had it seemed like a normal-ish life. And we definitely communicated with the kids. We talked about things. We had just an honest, open relationship. And we never, ever thought this could happen. But it did, and it does. Not just to us, but to families and to communities and to kids, just like Jasmine, like all over the place, which you'll hear a little bit about in a minute. But yeah, I don't know how we got through that time. 2 years and 2 months of not knowing if Jasmine was dead or alive, not knowing where she was, who she was with, if she was with anybody. And one day, actually, it was about 6 months after she went missing. We were contacted, the only contact that we had during this period of time, to get her dental records. And I watch Law and Order, and I'm like, dental records? They only need dental records if they're trying to identify a body. Like, what? Um, and just that in itself was horrific. Like, and it was so difficult. Like, Nobody told me how to get dental records to give to, the Missing Persons Bureau. Nobody, you have to figure it out as you go along. And it's such an incredible process. And the trauma and the feelings are just overwhelming, and the grief and the loss. Fortunately, it wasn't Jasmine. But then again, we woke up the next day not knowing, is she dead? Is she alive? And so 2 years and 2 months after she first went missing when she was trafficked, we got a call from the Chicago Human Trafficking Task Force to let us know that they had recovered Jasmine in Chicago. And not only that, but they also had her new baby. So we found out that day we have our daughter, and we also had a grandbaby. So she was just 3 months old, almost 3 months old. But we worked quickly with the task force to get them home. And they came home within like 2 days. And so we got to see Jasmine again, and we got to meet Emery again. But honestly, the trauma that they had endured for, that period of time, 2 years, 2 months, was more than I could ever imagine. Like, I've worked in organizations that are trauma-informed carers that work through a trauma-informed lens. So I felt like I was pretty savvy to kind of knowing what trauma is and all of those kinds of things, but nothing could have prepared us. And nothing could then prepare us for, like, well, what do we do? Like, for safety reasons, like she couldn't stay at home because what if they knew where she was, etc. So just navigating that, the court process, you have to get restraining orders, all of those kinds of things, and not knowing, like, how do we even help Jasmine and help Emery get through this trauma and start on their healing journey. And just to give you kind of an idea, like the first morning they were home, my husband took the baby outside, and she couldn't open her eyes. She was squinting in the sunlight because she'd been kept in the dark in a basement for the first 2.5 months of her life. And it was just one example of the kind of trauma that they were living with. There we go. That is a picture of Jasmine when she came home. And I have to change that real quick because I don't like looking at it. But here you could see the before picture that I showed you that we held on to for that 2 years, and the after picture that she came home like that. And we were really fortunate because we were able to get them into a program in Orange County, which really helped Jasmine and Emery on their journey to healing. But it never stops. As you all know, it never stops. There is so many days, so many times and trials and tribulations, but knowing that they are safe and they are back is huge. And this is Jasmine with my nephew, again, within a few days of coming home. So you could see a little better from the first picture. And then this is Jasmine and Emery. And that is our grandbaby and our daughter, and they are home. And that is when they were in their journey to transformation and to wholeness and to really moving on and working through things to move forward in life. And I shared a few minutes ago about gratitude and gratefulness. And part of the reason that I feel so grateful to Alan, to Saving Innocence, for where I am right now is, it might sound very cheesy. Alan's probably sick of hearing me say this, but working as the director of development for Saving Innocence really is like a dream come true, because it allows me the opportunity to put my like 20, 22 years, 25 years in fundraising, the gifts, the experience, the expertise to work for an organization that is impacting, touching lives, just like this girl you see here, just like Jasmine, just like Emery, every single day. Like, they walk with the Jasmines through everything, through going to court, through crying, through listening, through whatever it is, helping with even the practical things. Like they had no clothes, they had four diapers when they got here. Like there was nothing. They were removed from a situation and had nothing. And the fact that saving innocence, we come alongside girls just like Jasmine, parents just like us, and provide even those necessities of basic things that everybody needs, provide shelter, provide that person to be there for them is an incredible opportunity for me to marry my expertise and skills with an organization that I feel so deeply about, and such an honor to work and to partner with Alan and the team to raise money for people just like Jasmine, for people just like Jasmine and Emery. Like, I can never do enough. I just don't want to ever stop because there's so many people just like them that need help. And you having us here this morning, myself, Alan, and hearing and allowing us this space to share a little more about our own stories and what we do is something that I am so grateful for and so honored to be here. And I just thank you big time. So now I am going to hand it over to Alan. I will stop sharing my screen. But as you heard, I am thrilled to introduce you to Alan. I will let him share more about what he does, but he is the Executive Director of Saving Innocence. And Alan, it's over to you.
Great. Thank you, Katie, for sharing all that. And just, I want to respect everyone's time. How much time do we have left for me to share? Could someone let me know? I'm not sure when time this meeting ends. How we doing on time?
Uh, We have till about 10 to 9,
Okay.
which gives us about 20, about almost 25 minutes.
Okay, perfect. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I will go ahead and share my screen now. We'll walk through a handful of slides and I'll help you get to know a little bit more about this space called human trafficking and the space that Saving Innocence plays in it. And first of all, thank you for inviting us into your. I feel like you pulled the curtain back and you led us into a secret place where all kinds of important things were being shared. So thank you so much for that. We're honored to be here. So as Katie said, Alan Smyth, I'm the executive director of Saving Innocence, and that essentially means I get to lead this group, but really they lead me more than I lead them in terms of the expertise and the knowledge and the hard work that our team does. I'm honored and grateful to be with them for sure. Here are the goals for the next 25 minutes or so. Awareness and action. And so we're going to go through some things. We'll look at a few stats. We'll tell a few stories. I'll share a few quotes. And by the end of this time, you'll be much more aware, regardless of what your awareness level is right now, of the crime of human trafficking. My goal is to help you get more educated, more aware of what's happening around you. And then number two, that it always has to accompany action. And so I'll give you a few ideas of how you could possibly, this group or you as an individual might want to get involved if you feel so led. Awareness and action, one without the other isn't all that helpful. And so we can't be frustrated at a society or a community or a group for not being part of a solution of something they don't know about, something they don't understand, something that's out there somewhere without that knowledge. So want to help us all become aware, and we're going to talk about some action. And I don't know how many of you are movie buffs or sci-fi movie buffs, but this is a little screenshot from a movie franchise years ago called The Matrix. And there was this make-believe world where the star of the movie had a choice to make. Did he take the red pill or the blue pill? And in the movie, he was offered to take one of these pills. And if he took the red pill, it was explained to him, his name was Neo, he would see the world for the way it really was. And in essence, he would wake up from this sort of state that he was in. But if he didn't want to do that, if he didn't want to see the reality, the actual reality of the actual world that he's living in, he could just take the blue pill and he would continue to just be oblivious and stay asleep, essentially. Well, thankfully for the movie fans, he took the red pill, and that spawned about three or four or five more movies in the franchise. but he woke up to the actual realities of his world, what it had become. And it was explained to him in the movie, the script, that if you take the red pill and you wake up, you can never go back. In essence, you can't unsee what you're going to see. You can't unlearn what you'll learn. And you're now in this new reality. And so you might be able to see where I'm going with this is that by having this conversation today and any subsequent conversations you might have, or documentaries you might watch, or videos you might look at, you'll be essentially taking the red pill and waking up possibly to a reality that you were unaware of previously. So thank you for all being willing to take the red pill with us this morning. Okay, so we look at awareness. What are we talking about here? Human trafficking. The federal definition includes three important words, and that's force, fraud, and coercion. Katie just used the word coercion a moment ago when she spoke about her own daughter. And it's usually a mixture of all three of those. And it's essentially the definition speaks, it's compelling someone. It's making someone do something they wouldn't ordinarily do. It's not their choice. They don't want to be doing it, but by the means of force, fraud, and or coercion, they are compelled to act in a way that they wouldn't ordinarily act. Katie's dear daughter went off to Chicago. This wasn't her choice. There was coercion involved. There was force. There was fraud. There was something that compelled her go with her 36-year-old quote unquote boyfriend down a path that she didn't even know existed previously, I'm sure. So force, fraud, and coercion. That's how, when they're investigating the crime of human trafficking, understanding is this human trafficking or is it something else? If they could identify one, two, or three of those, then they would say, yes, in fact, it is human trafficking. How big is this crime that we're talking about? The International Justice Mission works around the world, and they estimated that there's some 45 million victims of human trafficking worldwide. It's called the modern day slavery. Again, they are being forced to work in a way that they don't want to. They don't have a choice. They cannot leave, and that is slavery. 45 million. Think about that number worldwide. The 2024 NASDAQ Global Financial Crime Report said that there are $347 billion annually changing hands being made off of human trafficking. This is a financially driven crime, preying on the most vulnerable. Down at the bottom, to just sort of calibrate, how big is that number anyway? It sounds really big. Well, that is more revenue than the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, global soccer, global video streaming, global theatrical releases, global music sales, and US gambling. It's more money than all of those combined every single year, trading hands on illicit gains on the backs of vulnerable people, many of them children. When we look at the US human trafficking, our Department of Justice, this is a slightly older stat, but it seems to ring true that in the United States, human trafficking, 82% of the cases are sex trafficking, being forced and compelled to do that which they don't want to do, sex trafficking, and 18% labor trafficking. You've heard the term sweatshops. That's a common phrase. It's vulnerable people being forced and compelled to work in living conditions, oftentimes that are subhuman, and they can't leave. That means they're being trafficked for labor trafficking. Just recently in Los Angeles, you all, I don't know where you all live, and some of you may be in Southern California, but you're around the world, and you probably saw the horrific fires, the Palisade fires and Altadena fires. Well, not surprisingly, there were hundreds of people in the cleanup crews that were being trafficked, labor trafficked, organizations coming in and saying, we will clean up this mess. And they were preying on vulnerable people to perform that work. And so we were swept into the middle of that, helping to help these victims of trafficking find their justice and freedom. There's an estimated 300,000 children trafficked for sex in our country every year. 300,000 children, minors. The average age of entry into sex trafficking in our country is between 12 and 14 years old. So you have a 12, 13, 14-year-old is the average age. You know what that means? Our youngest client at Saving Innocence was a tender 7 years old, a little girl that grew up right here in Southern California, being trafficked for sex. And what does that mean? Well, there's usually 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 sexual encounters every single day by someone who's being actively trafficked, obviously against their will, obviously in a subhuman environment. Money is changing hands. Not that this would help it in any way or make it any better, but they don't see a dollar of the money that's being made off of their trafficking. The trafficker takes it all. Absolutely horrific uh, environment that they're living in. This is an actual sign that was on the streets of LA. They put 4 or 5 of them around, talks about known human trafficking areas, and this drove me crazy. They put up an actual, looks like a road sign, looks like an official sign from the county or the city, children at work. And I just saw that phrasing and I thought, have you guys lost your mind? We're somehow legitimizing this experience that children, it's like there's children working here. Like they're walking across the street to do their shift at the yogurt shop or the McDonald's or something like that. Let's call it what it is. It's not children at work. You can say children being raped here, children being assaulted here, children being abused here. It's like they are acknowledging, we know this is happening. And rather than stopping it, we're just going to put a sign to warn you that it might be happening here. So pay attention. This is the society that we are living in right now. I'm going to bypass in the interest of time. Um, Hold on, catching up here. Um, there's a little video that I don't have time to show that shows a wonderful survivor of trafficking named Ori. If you care to follow up and look at go to our YouTube page at some point, the Saving Innocence YouTube page, you can find that video. And it's her telling her story, talking about the age from 11 to 15 she was trafficked, and the thousands of encounters that she had. And a lot of people will ask, well, how are these young girls? How do they do? How are they doing? What are the outcomes? And some of these outcomes that we are in the middle of are amazingly beautiful. And this is Ori here. The picture on the left, this past December, I flew to Texas because I was going to be in the crowd cheering her on. She walked across the stage with her 4-year degree, um, college degree. And then the very next day is a big 24 hours for her. She got engaged to this young man, Curtis, great guy. And there's Ori showing off her ring. And later this year, she's asked me I'll be performing her wedding ceremony. This is what you call a great outcome. What this young girl's been through is unthinkable and unfathomable, and she's one of so many that have gone through this. But they aren't all like that. They aren't all beautiful outcomes. There's some really difficult outcomes. Some are hard and sometimes even tragic. A few years ago, excuse me, we had a makeshift memorial service for a number of kids that we had been walking with, clients of ours that had lost their lives as a direct result of the environment they were forced to exist in. It's a very violent, aggressive environment. And so we met out in a park with a number of other county social workers, and we had a little service, if you will, a remembrance, and we had these white helium balloons that represented these kids, and everyone who was involved in their life got to write a little note using a black Sharpie on the balloon. We had a moment of silence where we let the balloons off, signifying that these kids were no longer with us. They left way too soon in the most unjust way imaginable. And we are honored and privileged to fight on their behalf on a daily basis. If you were to visit us at our office in Southern California, you'd walk in the front door and this is what you'd see. There's a dozen of these birds, silhouettes of these birds, and each one of them represents one of these dear ones that are no longer with us. And it's a stark reminder of the gravity of the situation here. Saving Innocence isn't in the business of cleaning up freeway graffiti. or picking up litter on the beach. And I'm glad that there are groups that do those things. Um, we're in the business of fighting for vulnerable, mostly children, and their lives are hanging in the balance. This is happening not in some distant third world country, although it is. It's happening right here. 45 million such victims around the world, and it's happening right here in the United States of America. And I'm not sure if there's some of you from other countries, but it's happening in your country as well. I promise you that. Average age of entry is between 12 and 14. I mentioned that already. What's causing this? What are some of the issues? Consumerism, entitlement, an over-sexualized culture, wealth and poverty, and a lagging behind judicial system. While we've made a lot of progress with laws on the books and understandings, we've done a lot of training with judicial systems around the country. We've trained judges, we've trained law enforcement agencies. We're helping communities better understand the crime that's happening and better understand what needs to happen to stop and intervene and get rid of that crime in their community. The majority of the children that are trafficked are already in the foster care system. That's the majority. That's not all kids. You heard Katie's story. Dear Jasmine came from a great two-parent household in a upper middle class environment. If this is not a foster care system, it's not an inner city problem exclusively. No one is immune from the crime of human trafficking, especially now that we live in an age with social media. If a child has a social media account, they are therefore by definition vulnerable to the attacks of predators. FBI at one point said there's 900,000 predators online at any given moment, masquerading as somebody else. So you got a 36-year-old person with terrible, brutal, horrible intentions, putting a different picture, going into people's chat rooms and their video games and their social media platforms, masquerading as one thing when really they're another thing, trying to build a relationship with someone who doesn't know any better, who doesn't understand what the dangers are. Parents have gone asleep at the switch and they think that social media and the online presence is more of a babysitting, childcare, something to distract their kids when all the while it's infested with predators. And so Saving Innocence does a lot of training with kids and parents along those lines as well. Occasionally, a child will run away from home for whatever reason. 1 out of 3 runaway children will be approached by a trafficker within 48 hours. A runaway child is therefore vulnerable. Before very long, they need shelter, they need food, they need protection. And the trafficker spots that at a bus stop, at a mall, outside of school, somewhere, somehow, some way. There's a predator. I keep using that word. When we're done here today, go to Google and just Google up some kind of predator video from the jungle in Africa or some place like that. We've all seen versions of that video with lions laying down in the tall grass out in the savannah in the jungle somewhere. And he's waiting, and there's a herd of buffalo or zebra or antelope running by, and he's sitting there waiting. There's a tactic. There's an instinct. He's downwind. He knows where he needs to be and where he should not be in order for him to be undetected. And then when that herd runs by in those videos, he almost never jumps on that first one. There's 50 or 100 animals running by. He's just sitting, he waits. He's sort of watching them, stalking them. And then usually near the end of that herd, there's one that's a little slow, fell behind the pack. Easy prey, if you will. He's not the strong, confident, and aware big leader of the pack. That's too much trouble. He's slow and timid and unaware. And the lion jumps on that one for his lunch. Well, the exact same thing, those predatory instincts and behaviors are happening in the human kingdom right now, the human race right now. Laying down in the tall grass, if you will. Instincts are telling him not to jump on that child, not to approach that vulnerable person that is strong, confident, and aware, but rather one that is unaware, timid, and weak. Predatory behavior is happening. The life expectancy of a trafficked child is about 7 years, unless they're recovered. The clock starts ticking. And we've seen when that clock expires, all too painfully saving innocence with those balloons in the air and the birds on our wall. They've got about 7 years typically, and before their life comes to an end. And it is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. Think about that. The fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. This is not a small little insignificant crime that's happening. Someone selling knockoff watches outside the basketball game or something like that. Human beings are being targeted and sold over and over and over. One survivor, age 15, was in the process, the recovery process, and she was at a police station. And our advocate showed up in the middle of the night, as we've done for almost 15 years now, on call around the clock, 24/7. And this young girl is in hysterics. Emotions are bubbling over. And finally, after an hour of her not being able to speak because she was crying so hard, she says to our advocate, "I just want to be treated like a human being." And that is a really powerful insight into the life that she and so many are living. They're being treated subhumanly. They're being dehumanized, being bought and sold like property. They're a commodity, one trafficker told us, a commodity to be bought and sold for a profit. It's good old-fashioned capitalism, supply and demand, selling a profit. And she was feeling this in the most vulnerable way. I always want to be treated like a human being. Another survivor, age 16, said to us, "It wasn't my fault. I had no choice. It was survival." And I underline that word survival because I want to pause on that for a moment. Just think about that. Survival. There are plenty of professions that men and women can voluntarily, when they become adults, they can voluntarily join the military. They can voluntarily join the law enforcement. They can become a firefighter. They can do lots of things where they are willingly putting their life in harm's way, in a dangerous situation, in a survival situation, if you will. The difference, though, is that they are being given training and ongoing training. They're given the proper equipment, whether it's weaponry or other equipment, to do the job. And they always have backup. They're always part of a bigger team. And if they get outmatched, they can call for reinforcements. They are in survival situations, but they are well equipped and well armed to thrive in that situation. No 16-year-old or 15-year-old or 7-year-old, in the case of one of our previous clients, has the training, has the backup. They haven't willingly stepped into the situation. They were forced, frauded, if that's a word, or coerced into a survival situation. Well, enter saving innocence. We went through a strategic planning process, and we updated our mission statement. I wanted to provide it for you here because there's some interesting, I think, phrases in here. We support and empower children and adults impacted by human trafficking by disrupting cycles of abuse and confronting exploitation through strategic partnerships and trauma-responsive education, advocacy, and systems of care. And I just highlighted those two words, disrupting and confronting. This is an organization that is engaged at the street level, disrupting cycles of abuse and confronting exploitation. We can't afford to be passive on this crime anymore. The stakes are too high. We cannot afford to sit back and hope that somebody else is going to take care of this massive problem. You're all invited in to be part of that solution in some way, shape, or form. Here's some of our staff. Last fall, we turned 14 as an organization. We threw ourselves a birthday party with cake and balloons. There's some of the team, some of the heroes that are oftentimes working around the clock on behalf of vulnerable people, many of them children, trying to help them out of this trafficking situation they find themselves in. And here we are at a little holiday lunch as well. Heroes, all of them, doing literal life-saving work. There's two main programs that Saving Innocence is currently running, if you will: crisis response and advocacy. There's a 24/7 response. We have law enforcement partners, other community partners that call us. Sometimes our phone number gets into the hands of survivors themselves trying to get out. That happens quite a bit as well. And we're also co-leaders of the LA County Regional Human Trafficking Task Force. We're partnered with the Sheriff's Department, the Department of Justice, and Homeland Security, among with another 50 or 60 agencies in LA. And we meet and collaborate on a regular basis. Everyone has their own niche, their own space. The interesting thing that's happened with our leadership in the task force is because we work closely with federal agencies like Homeland Security and FBI, we're now swept into international cases as they touch Los Angeles. So we have clients that have come from Guatemala, from Africa, from China, from all around the world that are trafficked into Los Angeles. And they're now we are in relationship with them, helping them find the freedom that they deserve. Some of the crisis and response program, 24/7 response, coordination and response. There's a team of advocates managing a group of survivors, helping them to get everything they need until they don't need us any longer. Showing up in their needs, showing up in their celebrations, walking with them through their complicated healing journey. Some of the daily activities, case management. There's additional crises that will come in occasionally. We are walking with them through that. We are helping them set goals, problem solving, resource gathering, assistance in navigating the system, parenting support. Those clients that are already parenting, they already have a 6 month old or 1 or 2 year old. We're helping them learn what it means to be a great mom. Group therapy called Growth Group. We help with practical support, housing, education, child support, assistance in legal matters, including court cases, celebrating them. No one is celebrating these kids. We love to celebrate them. Birthdays, graduations, showers, proms, and anything else we can find to celebrate. I think this picture is sums up the work of Saving Innocence in a beautiful way. Under the covers is one of our clients who's having a medical emergency. In fact, right here in this picture, she is on a ventilator needing breathing assistance. In the foreground with the yellow ID badge in the hospital is one of our advocates. And one of our advocates is there. Not surprisingly, nobody else is in this young girl's room, but Saving Innocence was there, and our advocate was there. And the young girl having the medical emergency was able to move her hand outside from underneath her blanket and just hold the hand of our advocate. They weren't speaking. There wasn't a lot of talk. I'm sure our advocate was saying a few things, but this other young girl on a ventilator. She couldn't speak. And so sometimes it's profound and simple. We just show up in the middle of the crisis.
5 more minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's Sarah. We're celebrating a graduation. We'll move it on. Sometimes we help kids reclaim their childhood. This one's taking them to Disneyland. Get them churros and mouse ears and take a picture. Send it to me. Beautiful. We'll go past the task force. We've served and supported nearly 2,000 victims, turning survivors, many of them children. This one young girl at the end of a court case, she looked at her trafficker and said, "You don't own me anymore." She reclaimed her voice. She found her voice and her strength. Where were you when you saw this? You know exactly where you were. I bet you do. I do. A 9/11 moment. Where were you when you found out the average age of entry is 12 to 14, 300,000 children? Is this your 9/11 moment? When that moment happened, the world changed forever. One mom says, this is a different quote. One young lady said, "I could no longer fight for myself. I needed someone to fight for me." And so that's where we all come in. We're fighting for those who need someone to fight for them. And that's where you're invited. In the interest of time, I'll stop sharing my screen if I can. And exit. Okay. In the interest of time, I'll stop sharing that and I'll invite you guys into the solution. And you can go to savinginnocence.org. You'll find more information on the organization. This is not a fundraising meeting, but that's part of the action. Some of you might say, "I want to contribute." Savinginnocence.org is a great place to contribute. There's a donate page. I know Mary Grace is committing some amount of money from this group somehow or other. I'm not sure really what was happening, but you could volunteer. You can go to savinginnocence.org. There's places to volunteer. We've got this magical little Amazon wish list where we celebrate, and you can go on there and find it, and you can purchase items, and they'll get sent to us, and we can then turn them around and send them to the survivors that we send on birthdays and holidays and just practical, tangible items. You can do that. There's a lot of things that you can do. Katie and I are available to answer more questions. I'm sure you have more questions and answers right now. Katie, if you haven't already, I'm not looking at it. Can you put in this in the chat our email? Put in your email, Katie, spelled IE, Katie at savinginnocence.org. We'd love to do any follow up. This is a lot. This is a lot of information here, a lot of heavy things. So I appreciate you guys wading into this challenging topic. Um, the last slide, which I didn't show, William Wilberforce, a British theologian in the 1800s, largely credited with ending the transatlantic slave trade, the kind of slave trade that we learned about in school. And he said to his audience, "You may choose to look away, but you can never again say you didn't know." So I'll leave you with that. You can just wear that and put that on your shoulders. You can choose to look away. You can pretend that maybe we didn't have this conversation. It's too difficult to wade into hard conversations sometimes, but this group is strong. I can sense already this group is strong and you care about important things. Well, this is one more thing to add to your list. So you can, but you could choose to look away. That's your choice. But you can't say you didn't know. You know enough to know I might need to get a little bit more involved. So email Katie at savinginnocence.org and we will plug you in. We'll invite you to our office if you're in LA. We'll let you meet some of our team and we'll see where that takes us. So with that, I'll wrap it up and thank you so much for your time.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you for the red pill. Thank you for the red pill.
Oh, the red pill. Yeah, sorry. You're welcome. Yeah, just like the movie, you can't
Yeah,
go back after you
exactly.
took that red pill.
There is a sign that the child can make even if the trafficker is next to the child to warn people so they can call the police or the stewardess if they are not on a plane. Do you know what sign that is?
There is a hand signal that's been going
Yeah.
around, and I'm not 100% sure what that is. Katie, do you happen to know what that is? We wouldn't, that doesn't really come into play for our work that much. We wouldn't recommend that private citizens, if they suspect it, that they should call 911, that they don't get involved in that moment. That could be really dangerous for the actual victim who's being trafficked. If that trafficker understands or suspects that the person he's controlling is calling out for help, that would be really, really dangerous for her, maybe even lethal for her. So,
That's
maybe,
why they, I mean, I saw some videos, but I cannot remember this sign.
yeah. It's
That they,
it's something with the hand, but I
yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
I'm not even sure. If you suspect something, call 911 if you're in
please.
America. I'm not sure what the other, number is around the world, but if you see something, say something and let those that are prepared to jump into it.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Alan, very much.
you're welcome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and it's impressive and meaningful that a group like this would take the time out of your busy morning and enter into this conversation. And I'm sorry if I ruined a night of sleep for you tonight, if you're thinking about this. But I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because we need more people losing sleep over this crime on behalf of the young victims that desperately need someone to fight for them. And you're invited into this fight, and we would love to answer any and all future questions and how you might want to get involved.
Is it mostly women?
It is, yes. At least related to sex trafficking. In our setting here in California, Southern California, it's about 95% girls, young girls, and about 5% men, young boys. And I think that's pretty true around the country and around the world as far as sex trafficking. Sadly, the largest contributor to this problem is men, and most of those men prefer girls and young girls oftentimes. Labor trafficking is different. There's a lot of young boys that are swept into labor trafficking and forced to work out in a field or in a garment, shop or something like that. And there's a lot of boys that that happens to.
Thank you,
Thank
Alan. It's time for a short business meeting.